My mother gave me the silent treatment for 2 years. Because I chose my husband over her, I spent 36 years trying to earn my mother's approval. I followed her rules, met her expectations, and sacrificed my own happiness to keep the peace. I thought if I was good enough, she would finally love me unconditionally. I was wrong. When I chose to marry my husband, Franklin, instead of the man she'd picked for me, she stopped speaking to me. 2 years of silence. 2 years of being erased from her life. 2 years of her treating me like I didn't exist. I tried everything to win her back. Apologizing, pleading, even leaving my husband for a few weeks. Nothing worked. She wanted me to choose her over him. And when I refused, she cut me off completely. I was heartbroken, furious, and completely alone. I spent 2 years wondering what I'd done wrong. Then I realized I hadn't done anything wrong. She had. The day my mother stopped speaking to me, I was 28 years old. I'd just told her I was engaged to Franklin, a man she'd never approved of. He wasn't from the right family. He didn't have the right job. He wasn't the man she'd always envisioned for me, but I loved him, and I knew he was the one. I remember the moment clearly. We were sitting in her kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd grown up, surrounded by the familiar scent of her cooking and the faded photos on the refrigerator. I'd been nervous, my hands shaking as I showed her the ring. "Mom, I have something to tell you," I said, my voice trembling with excitement. "Franklin and I are getting married." She looked at the ring, then at me. Her face went cold. "Absolutely not," she said. "I won't allow it." "Won't allow it?" I repeated, incredulous. "Mom, I'm 28 years old. I don't need your permission. I've sacrificed everything for you," she said. "Everything. And this is how you repay me? By marrying a man who isn't good enough for you?" "He's good enough for me," I said. "He makes me happy." "Isn't that what matters?" She stood up from the table, her chair scraping against the floor. "If you marry him, I want nothing to do with you. You'll be dead to me." I stared at her, my heart shattering into a million pieces. She'd always been controlling, always had a vision for my life that I could never quite live up to, but I never imagined she'd go this far. "Mom, please," I said. "I love him. He's a good man. Why can't you just be happy for me?" "I can't be happy for you when you're making the biggest mistake of your life," she said. "You'll regret this. I promise you that." I walked out of her house that day, my heart heavy. I thought she'd come around. I thought she'd eventually accept my decision and support me. I was wrong. The wedding was beautiful. Franklin's family was warm and welcoming, and I felt like I was finally part of something real. But my mother wasn't there. I'd sent her an invitation, but she never responded. I'd called her, left messages, begged her to come. She never answered. The silence after the wedding was deafening. I tried everything to reach her. Letters, phone calls, even showing up at her door. She refused to see me. She refused to speak to me. It was like I'd ceased to exist. I was 36 years old now. 2 years had passed since my wedding, 2 years of silence. 2 years of being erased from my mother's life. I still tried. I sent her cards on holidays. I called on her birthday. I left messages telling her I loved her, that I missed her, that I wanted to make things right. She never responded. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I'd made a mistake. Maybe she was right about Franklin. Maybe I should have chosen her over him. The guilt was constant, a weight I carried everywhere. I tried to talk to my father about it. He'd always been the passive one, the one who went along with whatever my mother wanted. "Dad, I don't know what to do," I said. "She won't even acknowledge my existence." He sighed, looking older than I remembered. "Your mother is stubborn. She's always been this way. She'll come around when she's ready. What if she's never ready?" I asked. He was silent for a long moment. "Then you have to accept that." I felt the tears prick at my eyes. "How can I accept that? She's my mother." "I know," he said. "But you can't force someone to love you. You can't force someone to see you. Sometimes you have to let go." I didn't know if I could let go. She was my mother. I'd spent my whole life trying to earn her approval. I didn't know how to stop. I started therapy. Dr. Morrison was patient and kind, helping me untangle the mess of emotions I was carrying. "You've been conditioned to believe that your mother's love is conditional," she said one afternoon. "But it's not love, it's control, and you're finally free of it." "But I still want her," I said. "I still want her to love me." "You might always want that," Dr. Morrison said gently. "But you can't force her to be someone she's not. You can only control your own choices." I started to set boundaries. I stopped calling my mother. I stopped sending cards. I stopped trying to earn her love. It was painful, but it was also liberating. I was finally choosing myself. I also started to accept that my mother might never change. She might never speak to me again. She might never acknowledge my marriage, my children, my life, and I had to be okay with that. I thought about the woman I'd been before, the woman who'd tried so hard to please her mother. I thought about the woman I was becoming, a woman who knew her worth, who set boundaries, who refused to be controlled. I'd been through hell, but I'd come out the other side. I was stronger, wiser, and more whole than I'd ever been. One evening, I sat on my porch watching the sunset, Franklin's hand in mine. The world was full of possibility, and for the first time in a long time, I felt truly free. The phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Hello? Genevieve?" It was my mother's voice, trembling, uncertain. "It's your mother. I want to talk." The phone call from my mother was so unexpected that I nearly dropped the phone. I stood frozen in my kitchen, Franklin's hand still in mine, staring at the device like it was a live grenade. I'd waited 2 years for this moment, 2 years of silence, 2 years of being erased from her life, and now she was finally reaching out. Mom? I said, my voice barely a whisper. Is that really you? Yes, she said, her voice trembling. It's me. I'm sorry. I know I've been terrible. I know I've hurt you, but I need to see you. I felt a flood of emotions. Anger, relief, confusion. Part of me wanted to hang up, to protect myself from being hurt again. But another part of me, the part that had spent 36 years craving her approval, wanted to hear what she had to say. Why now? I asked. Why after 2 years? I'm sick, she said. I've been diagnosed with cancer. I don't know how much time I have left. I don't want to die without making things right with you. I felt the air leave my lungs. Cancer. My mother had cancer. All the anger I'd been carrying suddenly felt small and insignificant. I need to see you, she repeated. Please, I agreed to meet her. We arranged to have coffee at a quiet cafe near her house. I was nervous, my hands shaking as I drove to meet her. I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know if I was ready to forgive her. She was already there when I arrived. She looked smaller than I remembered, frailer. The cancer had taken a toll on her body. Her hair was thinner, her face more lined, her eyes tired, but she was still my mother. Genevieve, she said, her voice soft. Thank you for coming. I sat down across from her, my hands clasped in my lap. How are you? I asked. I'm tired, she admitted, but I'm getting treatment. The doctors are hopeful. That's good, I said. I'm glad you're getting help. She was silent for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was filled with regret. I've been a terrible mother to you. I know I have. I've been controlling and judgmental and cruel, and I'm so sorry. I didn't know what to say. I'd spent 2 years waiting for her to apologize, but now that she was saying the words, they didn't feel like enough. Why? I asked. Why did you do it? Why did you cut me off? She sighed, her eyes filling with tears. I was so afraid of losing you. I thought if I could control your choices, I could keep you close. But I was wrong. I pushed you away instead. You did push me away, I said. You made me feel like I didn't exist. I know, she said, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. We talked for hours that day. About the past, the present, the future. About the decisions we'd made, the pain we'd caused, the hope of rebuilding our relationship. It was painful and awkward at times, but it was also healing. I didn't forgive her completely. I couldn't. The wound was still too fresh, but I was willing to try. Over the next few months, I visited my mother regularly. I helped her with her treatments, sat with her during chemo, and held her hand when she was scared. It was exhausting and emotionally draining, but it was also healing. Franklin was supportive. He'd never held a grudge against my mother, even though she'd treated him terribly. He'd always encouraged me to try to repair our relationship. She's your mother, he said one evening, and she's sick. You're doing the right thing. I knew he was right, but it was still hard. My mother started to change. She was softer, more open, more vulnerable. She'd spent her whole life being controlling and judgmental, but the cancer had humbled her. She apologized for things I'd never expected her to apologize for. Small slights, forgotten birthdays, missed opportunities. I wish I could go back and do it all differently, she said one afternoon. I wish I could be the mother you deserve. You can't go back, I said, but you can be different now. That's what matters. She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm trying. I'm really trying. I thought about everything I'd been through. The years of control, the 2 years of silence, the painful journey to rebuilding our relationship. I thought about the woman I'd been before and the woman I'd become. I was still angry sometimes. I still had moments when the pain of the past felt overwhelming, but I was also learning to forgive. I was learning to let go of the weight I'd been carrying for so long. One evening, my mother took my hand and looked at me with tear-filled eyes. I want you to know that I'm proud of you, she said. I've always been proud of you. I just didn't know how to show it. I felt the tears prick at my eyes. Thank you, I said. That means everything to me. It wasn't a magical moment. It was messy and complicated and full of unspoken pain, but it was real. It was ours. I thought about the future. My mother's cancer was progressing, and I knew I didn't have much time left with her. I wanted to make the most of it. I wanted to show her love, even if she hadn't always shown it to me. I continued to visit her, continued to hold her hand, continued to be present. It was hard, but it was also healing. I was finally letting go of the anger. I was finally finding peace. The months after my mother's diagnosis were a strange mix of grief and healing. I visited her as often as I could, sitting with her during treatments, holding her hand when she was scared, and listening to her talk about the past. She was different now, softer, more vulnerable, more open. The armor she'd worn for so many years had finally cracked. I wasted so much time being angry, she said one afternoon. I wasted so much time pushing you away, and now I don't have much time left. Then let's make the most of it, I said. Let's focus on what we have now, she nodded, tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry, Genevieve. I'm sorry for all the years I made you feel like you weren't enough. You were always enough. I was the one who wasn't. I held her hand, feeling the weight of her words. I'd waited so long to hear her say those things, and now that she was saying them, I felt a sense of peace I hadn't known was possible. I continued to visit her, even as her health declined. I helped her with her treatments, brought her meals, and sat with her during the long hours of silence. It was hard, but it was also healing. Franklin was supportive throughout. He drove me to appointments, watched the kids when I needed to be with my mother, and never complained about the time I spent away from home. He'd never held a grudge against my mother, even though she'd treated him terribly. He'd always encouraged me to try to repair our relationship. She's your mother, he said one evening, and she's sick. You're doing the right thing. I knew he was right, but it was still hard. My mother's health continued to decline. The cancer was aggressive, and the treatments weren't working. The doctors told us she had months, maybe weeks, left. I spent as much time with her as I could. We talked about everything, the past, the present, the future. We laughed about old memories. We cried about missed opportunities. We held each other and tried to make up for lost time. One evening, she took my hand and looked at me with tear-filled eyes. "I want you to know that I'm proud of you," she said. "I've always been proud of you. I just didn't know how to show it." I felt the tears prick at my eyes. "Thank you," I said. "That means everything to me. I know I wasn't the mother you deserved," she continued. "I was so focused on controlling your life that I forgot to love you for who you are. But I want you to know that I love you. I've always loved you. I just didn't know how to show it." I held her hand, feeling the weight of her words. "I love you too, Mom. I've always loved you." My mother passed away a few weeks later. I was with her at the end, holding her hand, telling her it was okay to let go. She closed her eyes and she was gone. I cried for days. I cried for the mother I'd lost, for the years we'd wasted, for the pain we'd caused each other. But I also cried for the healing we'd found, the love we'd finally shared. The funeral was small, just family and close friends. My father was there, silent and grieving. My sister Helena was there, holding my hand. Franklin was there, standing beside me, a steady presence in the chaos. I gave the eulogy. I talked about my mother's strength, her resilience, her fierce love for her family. I didn't talk about the pain she'd caused. I didn't talk about the years of silence. I focused on the love we'd finally found at the end. She wasn't perfect, I said. None of us are. But she was my mother, and I loved her, and I'm grateful for the time we had together. After the funeral, I went back to my mother's house. I needed to sort through her things, to pack up the remnants of her life. It was painful, but it was also cathartic. I found the letters I'd sent her over the years, the cards, the notes, the desperate pleas for her to talk to me. She'd kept them all. They were tucked away in a box in her closet, tied with a ribbon. I sat on the floor, surrounded by the evidence of our broken relationship, and cried. She'd kept them. She'd kept every single one, even when she was angry. Even when she was silent, she'd held on to my words. I realized that she'd loved me all along. She just hadn't known how to show it. She'd been so consumed by her own fears, her own insecurities, her own need for control that she'd pushed away the one person who'd always been there for her. I thought about everything I'd been through. The years of control, the 2 years of silence, the painful journey to rebuilding our relationship. I thought about the woman I'd been before, and the woman I'd become. I was still angry sometimes. I still had moments when the pain of the past felt overwhelming, but I was also learning to forgive. I was learning to let go of the weight I'd been carrying for so long. I stood up, wiped my tears, and packed up the letters. I tucked them away in a box of my own, a reminder of my mother's love, even when she couldn't show it. I walked out of her house, feeling a strange sense of peace. The future was still uncertain, but I was ready to embrace it.